Hey friends, and welcome back to Go On Overland. So we made it our way up to Georgia. We were down in Florida, and we're over here about an hour south of Atlanta at the High Falls State Park. So we're gonna check out these waterfalls behind me a little bit, do a short hike, and then we got a campsite waiting for us. So we'll meet you back by the fire ring. Real quick guys, I want to show you the setup. You know, it's very rare that we're plugged in. So we have the water plugged in. Usually right behind it, we just fill up that little spout through there, and that fills up our holding tank. We have our electricity, our 30 amp coming out of here, and it's plugged in. And then to that left, that yellow one, is a step down adapter. That's another 30 amp pull because the regular one isn't working. I've checked all the breakers and all that, and that little guy isn't working. I have the water off right now because of this bad boy. So this guy here is the EcoFlow Delta. Of course, you've seen me talk about the Vetide and the Opus, and we've owned this thing the whole entire time. We actually bought this one ourselves, and we're going to be going into great detail on this. It's bringing in about 650 watts right now. We charge this anytime we can. It runs our business. It's really what we ultimately rely on, even though those other two smaller units will power our business. Again, without going into huge detail, this guy has an 1800 watt inverter, and it'll get about anything we need done out here. So we're going to talk about that in a future video. But just to show you the setup, guys, this is the third time we've had power, meaning plugging into an outlet like this, in about 2 months' time. So it's really rare. We're able to live completely, I guess you'd call it, off-grid in this rig, and so it's very rare we have power, but we're excited that we have some power today, and this is how we take advantage of it. Again, we have the Opus and we have the Vetide inside the camper charging. I brought this one out here basically to run it on its own dedicated line so that the camper and those two chargers can have the pull on the right, and the one on the left is going down to this unit. And here's these other two units now. So over here on the left is the Vetide, and I have it plugged into its own breaker. The camper comes with two breakers. One's a 15 amp and one's a 20 because it had the AC unit on the top. So over here, this thing is also plugged into a USB-C, and when I unplug this, see, it's getting 107 watts input right now. That's gonna drop down 105, 103. So you can see that drop down. Right now the Opus is bringing in 95 watts, 98. It's kind of sporadic, 95, and I'm going to plug this in, and we should see it go up quite a bit. So guys, whenever we get a chance, we're charging all this stuff. Usually these two are running on the solar panel that came with the Opus, and we're charging it and getting some charge out there in the sun. This one we usually charge via the cigarette lighter as we're driving down the road. I'll typically run this, I'll use this for my computer and doing work online, and then sometimes we'll end up watching a movie or playing a bit of video games off this. And then the big Delta, that's actually for work, and we end up using that for kind of living as well, but typically we reserve that one for work. And then our battery for the camper, because we only have one right now and it's an AGM, we typically use that for lights and the pump and stuff like that. So that's kind of how we're running it at this point, and it's working really good for us. Guys, you probably noticed that I ended up buying some firewood, and that's for sure I did. And once I got out here, I was planning on that just being kind of extra, but this wood that we collected was actually filled with bugs. A bunch of it was soggy because it's been raining, and it wasn't going to be good for cooking anyway. So we're not going to cook the steak with this kind of older soggy stuff filled with bugs, but we're going to use the store-bought stuff. As you guys will know, in that 3 sites, 3 nights video we did down in Florida, we did get some wood that had mold in it, but as you're out here picking, you know, it's been picked through. There's a branch back there, you'll see that one, that big old tree that fell down. Even if I had a chainsaw, I think they would frown upon me going out there and cutting it down. They just want you to gather what's been on the ground, and it's either soggy or everyone's picked through it. So there wasn't much here. So if we came here and we planning on having steak, you know, thinking we could do it on our own, we might have been let down. So as much as I'd want to be the guy out there ripping through it and getting my own wood, and there's plenty of it as we're driving along the highway that I probably could have got, but you know, that's what we did. And just something, maybe a pro tip, to get yourself a little bit of wood so that you're not let down. And there it is, friends. We got that ribeye cooked up really good. You know, there's nothing like a steak on the open flame. That's maybe not the spice I would typically go with, but here in the rig, we don't carry everything we typically do at the house, but I think it tastes really good. So, friends, if you're cruising along the interstate and you're headed maybe from Macomb, Georgia, up to Atlanta, I would say this is a good park if you just want to get out with the family and stretch your legs a bit and check out the waterfalls. You know, maybe not a destination I would go way out of my way for, maybe something that would be really pretty in the fall time. Obviously all the leaves are dead right now, but a great little park. As far as the campsite goes, you know, it's just like any other state park. They have everything you need. We're plugged in electricity. That's huge for us. We got water. There's a shower behind the camera that I'm gonna go take advantage of later, and then a dump station. So really good little campsite, reasonable price and whatnot. So we're enjoying that quite a bit. We've been making our way up from Florida into Georgia. As we were leaving Florida on the East Coast, just before you get to Jacksonville, there was Fort Matanzas. You know, I really enjoyed that. That sparked the history buff in me. For a short period in college, I was a history major. Turns out I had more credits in sociology, so I just went ahead and finished that degree, because at that point I had to get either a degree or it wasn't going to happen. So, you know, I've been studying all this stuff as we go along, and we hit some of these national parks and state parks. And that Fort Matanzas, you know, is really cool because, actually kind of sad, but that's where the Spanish ended up slaughtering 300 Frenchmen. And so there's all kinds of battles out there. And that was a point of contention and trying to see who was going to gain or regain control of Florida. And at that period, the Spanish had control of it, and they kept control of it. There were some really neat places up north, really great spots. You know, we hit as many of them as we can, but sometimes you got to keep going. We made our way into Georgia, and that's where we found another fort. You know, that's probably a theme here on the East Coast, is just fort after fort. And that one was Fort Frederica. You know, something that was cool about this one was that the British were trying to hold off Georgia. And at that point, again, Florida was a Spanish territory, and then up north you had the British colonies, and that was kind of where there was a battle at Fort Frederica that kind of solidified, that sealed the deal for that to become a British colony. So some of these things, you just imagine what it would look like if maybe the Spanish kept Florida and kept Georgia, and maybe this whole area would be just different today. So that's kind of what we like doing, what we've been up to. You get out here overlanding and traveling and experiencing these kind of things, and it's really neat the kind of stuff you find and stumble across sometimes. You have to research these things, and sometimes they just pop up, and we've been really enjoying that. Again, kind of tickling that history buff in me, but we're just out here camping, having a good time. I think we're gonna get after these steaks and these mashed potatoes and the asparagus, and then just sit by the fire for a little bit tonight. You know, we're enjoying being plugged in, as I talked about earlier. It's not something we get very often. A lot of people come to the mountains, to the woods, to escape kind of reality and everyday life. Well, that's one of the places that we feel more connected to the grid, because that's where we get electricity, living this off-grid lifestyle right now. So that's kind of a weird dynamic, I guess you'd say. But you know, there's other campers all around us. We're not alone under any circumstances. So I'd rather be way back 12 miles into the BLM land or something like that. But you got kids and dogs and you hear different stuff going on. But it is a lot more peaceful than sleeping at maybe a truck stop or a Cracker Barrel or some of the places that we like to frequent. So just enjoying ourselves, guys. I really hope you enjoyed a little bit of the falls and the fire and building that and whatnot. So we got a bunch of fun videos coming along. As I talked about, we're gonna get into that EcoFlow Delta here in a little bit, and more gear that keeps us on the road. That way we can get up and go on. So guys, I'd love to hear if you've been to this state park. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if there's something in Georgia that you think we just shouldn't miss while we're here. We're gonna be here a bit longer, so let me know in the comments about what you think we should see in Georgia. Make sure and hit the like button and subscribe. And so that's gonna do leaps and bounds for the channel. It's gonna give YouTube all kinds of warm and fuzzy feelings about the channel. But until the next one, friends, God bless you, get up and go on.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see from up here.